Hello. So in a recent short, I started 3 new plants, Kratky method, to try and experiment with more budget setups with some cheaper nutrients and some alternatives to HydroGuard. So I started one in the grow tent that's gourmet lettuce with reverse osmosis filtered water, HydroGuard, and the cheap plant nutrients. One in a windowsill with hydrogen peroxide as a substitute for HydroGuard if you don't have HydroGuard. Reverse osmosis filtered water still, both in food grade buckets and with the cheaper plant nutrients, an all-in-one plant nutrients, where mine is a bundle, I mix all together and is more expensive, but it lasts a long time. But I just want to show that there's a bunch of different types of nutrients that can work, and I'm going to be experimenting more with compost teas in the future. But then we started one outside with tap water, hydrogen peroxide as a substitute for HydroGuard, and the cheap plant nutrients. And it looks like the 2 inside are doing well. The one outside, rosemary, doesn't look like it survived. And there could be a couple reasons for that. It was really small. It might not have been ready for transfer. So we're going to try again with either a strawberry runner, because I have so many of them, or a pineapple, since we just want to try pineapple. But it's a not food grade bucket, so we'll just experiment with it. I do expect some algae in it because it's white. But Kratky's where we rely on the roots to go lower in the bucket so we don't have to use air pumps. And you can grow hydroponically in a bunch of different methods. I'm just trying to experiment more with them for you guys so that I can show like a bunch of different ways that this can be done, because there's not just one way of doing it. And I do DWC, where you pump bubbles in the bottom of the bucket to ensure that the roots always get air. And there's just several ways of doing that. And I also want to take a little tour of the garden and just show what's been going on recently, because things have been growing and moving on, and just aside from some educational stuff, I like to just document what's been going on and how it's going, and just give you guys a better perspective of what I'm working on, what I've been working on, and where things are headed. So I live in the desert, if I haven't said that enough, but that's just to give perspective. It's 90 degrees outside right now, and it's always like this, and it's only June 1st or 3rd. So as we head into like July, it gets really hot. It gets up to 110 outside during like the heat waves. And it's 90 in the shade right now, but I put one out in the sunlight there. And I'm gonna put this one out there too, because the screen on that one, it doesn't really like look the greatest. But I think the battery just died in it too.
Oh, it died.
Either that or it overheated. Oh, well, that's why we'll try the other one. It was 108, 110 in the sunlight. So we'll just have the second one out there to show, and like really low humidity. So just to give some perspective on what it's like to grow outside here. Also, we rent, so that's why we do a lot of indoor growing in case we have to like move, because we've lived in 5 different houses in the last like 4 years. So we move around a lot and want to bring our plants with us. And I actually put all these strawberries in, if you haven't seen the videos of me scatter planting too. We have some watermelons that worked from the scatter plant video just around the yard. Some are doing better than others in certain positions, but the strawberry bed's coming out nice. And some of them were planted last year and are coming back from overwintering. And I put about 40 of them in. I picked the flowers off in a recent short, and I wanted to show videos of the flowers that were on this. I took some clips of flowers that were on some plants like this that we had. But I don't think we showed in the last tour the other grapevine, but we did some pruning and cloning of the grapevine, so we're going to be putting out a video of pruning and cloning of the grapevine, but this is the other one we didn't really get to show too much last time. Also, if you saw, we had celery plant. I said that I didn't really want to have survive indoors, so I decided to put it outdoors, and I broke it into 5 different pieces. 2 of them here, which I didn't really expect to survive because they didn't get the greatest water, and they didn't. And then some loofahs looked like they were coming up from the scatter plant. And some of the celery did make it though. So let me show you some of the celery that did. And then we brought all the dirt strawberries out from over the 200 clones I took from one strawberry plant. I just tried to find homes for every one of them. So that's why we have 40 indoors, a 16 room. And then I had tons of them in dirt, way overcrowded. And we were just breaking them apart and planting them everywhere as clones. So that's why we still have that, and just to have them, I don't know, I have way too many strawberry clones, and I'm gonna be putting out more videos about cloning strawberries, specifically educational about it, and there's clips of me doing a bunch of it here and there. And I just put a short about cloning strawberries, but I just want to go in way more depth and detail on it. You see, we're already up to 99 there, and it's been just a couple minutes of me talking. So that'll definitely reach 108, 100, and it was 90 under the shade. So There's celery. It droops in the sunlight a little bit. That means I really should just take some leaves off of it. But the second it goes in the shade, it starts to perk back up if I keep it well hydrated. And I've already pruned it a bunch, but I have some clips of me putting that in the ground. It was kind of dark, but it came out okay. This is the other celery we put outside, and then the lemon tree. So at the end of this video, I'm just going to show a bunch of vlog clips of us putting the lemon in the ground and the celery and just a bunch of random stuff around the garden that we've been working on and doing. But I just want to give an overall arch of what's going on first. So the apricots are coming off the tree soon. I put out a short talking about how I got birds eating them, and I got some great recommendations on Facebook and in YouTube. Since we've been doing great on Facebook, and if you're here from Facebook, I really appreciate you. We're up to 93,000 followers there, and I really appreciate you guys. And about 3,000 on Instagram, 37,000 on TikTok, and we just hit about 6,000 on YouTube. So thank you guys. I really appreciate your support, and I'm trying to do my best to give you guys a good perspective of what I got going on and how I do it. And these are going to be coming off the tree soon. This is last year this time they came off the tree, but there's more on the tree and it's bigger this year, and I've been trying to keep it better hydrated. It droops in the sunlight sometimes too, so we pruned it, and I have some videos and clips of us pruning it, so I'll show those as well, and I may even make separate videos of them. But last year this time we harvested, and there was far more that dropped on the ground. So this year, and I have clips of it too, where we added soil to the ground here to try and hydrate the roots that were exposed better, and then pruned any lower branches that didn't have any good foliage on them. And last year we probably had like 50 apricots fall on the ground, and then we harvested any of them that were on the tree unedible that like the plant killed off. And this year we probably only had, you know, about 10. So what I'm talking about is like these ones on the ground here. We've only really had about 10 of these fall, which is really good, because last year we had about 50. The tree drooped a lot more. The roots were exposed. I didn't water by hand nearly as much because in the desert we're in a drought, so we can only water automatically 3 times a day, every day in the summertime for 4 minutes each cycle. So I have to go around by hand, which you can water by hand or watching it whenever you want. So I like to go around and get some extra watering in, and that helps the apricot tree a lot. And I think that's why we got a lot more this year, and that's why it's taking a little more time for them to ripen off, because June 3rd was when we harvested them all last year. And I think it's June 3rd right now. So it's going to take maybe another week, which is fine. And I hope you guys stick around for that, because that's going to be really cool, and I'm just looking forward to it. I say this part wrong. We harvested 5 5-pound bags, so 25 pounds of apricots last year, frozen for like 3 or 4 months. We had smoothies with them like every day. And so I'm excited this year. Hopefully maybe we could have enough for 5 months or 6 months. And maybe if we're here another year, we'll have enough apricots for like 8 months or a whole year. I just want to see like how big the tree needs to be to supply just me and Betty, my wife, beautiful wife, apricots all year. So the strawberries underneath the apricot tree are doing well. Again, I tried to find homes for all the 200 of them, and I want to put more by the lemon tree, but probably not red strawberry, because these are all red strawberry. We have white strawberry and yellow strawberry. I'm trying to get to start, but white strawberry's already started, so I'd love to put some white strawberry out here. Blueberry, I haven't gotten to start yet, but we got blackberry going, so I can clone and put that out here. Raspberry, we have 3 or 4 going, so I definitely want to put raspberry out here. Just a bunch of berries and stuff. And so yeah, that's why I grow a lot indoors, because if we move out, I want to be able to take all those berry bushes with me and just keep putting them down wherever I live. And you know, I'm pretty sure my landlord's grateful that I've added all these edible plants to his property. And I built that rock wall over there and stuff and put all that soil in, so it looked a lot different. I wonder if I have clips I can show of the grass we've been growing in the yard, which they're going to ban grass in Vegas soon, which is fine. I don't really agree with it a whole lot. I'd love to put raised beds here and stuff, but I just want the yard to look nicer and like hold moisture a little better and just be something for the wildlife around here. There's probably a lizard around here somewhere we can document.
Right
I know
here.
there's one on the wall. Oh, you already got one?
Yep.
Yeah, there's like 30, 40 lizards that live on the property, which are great because they eat the roaches and scorpions, because we get a lot of roaches and scorpions. And yeah, so the scorpions are what I don't like the most, because they're poisonous bark scorpions, and they glow under a black light. So we just go out and hunt them. Then them and the roaches, we go out and kill them manually by our feet because I don't like to use the chemicals because they don't really work the greatest either way. It doesn't. We've had the house sprayed by like the landlord before. It doesn't really kill the roaches or whatever and the scorpions. You got to go out there and kill them yourself. So we've squashed like 300 or 400 of them, but I just want to show you guys this grapevine because the grapes are coming off soon. And the birds have been eating the apricots. That's what I was talking about. So some of my commenters recommended these fruit baggies, which I actually completely forgot existed, but I've seen a long time ago, that you can put around the fruit to protect it from wildlife eating it. And leave some out for them to eat still because I don't want them to have nothing to eat out here. I put water out for them, but it's like illegal to feed the wildlife in the city, and I don't really know how much that extends to private land. So just want to show the grapevine and the grapes on it. And like I said, we'll show a video of us pruning, probably in a separate video of us pruning and cloning some of the plants out here. And you can see how much we just took off of it. That'll definitely help it hydrate better. Just some of it that we got in a pile. Yeah, I think we're gonna transition to indoors. I'm gonna show you guys the indoor garden. Let's just, before we go inside, check this temperature. This is at 113 now, and it's June 3rd. So like I said, when it's 110 degrees outside, I'll show you guys how hot it gets in the sunlight. Because right now it's 90 degrees outside like you saw in the shade. And in the sunlight, it's dramatically hotter. So just to give some perspective of why it can be tough to grow things out here. Also, these strawberries are the same age and were put outside around the same time as the ones indoors in the upstairs tent. So just the size comparison, just to show like these versus the ones upstairs of the size comparison of what's going on with. They're the same age, but these are less controlled. It's a harder environment. The soil's not the greatest. It's clay basically, and really tough. And it's really hot out. Not the greatest hydration. So just all those different factors. Not that one's better than the other. I don't do this to prove that one's better than the other. They're both fantastic, and there's great ways to do gardening in a bunch of different forms. I just want to spread gardening in as many forms as I can and talk about it and teach it as much as I can. So it's just to give perspective of what I've got going on. It's not to say one's better than the other. I'm sure if I did a raised bed here with some great compost, watered it frequently, this could be just as big and bad as the ones inside. It's just, you know, out here is a little tougher. I haven't controlled it as much. And I don't know, I just get a lot of comments around like why I grow inside and stuff. And it's just because I rent, and if I have to move, I want to be able to take my plants with me. And I really like gardening. All right, so we're in the first grow room that I use in this atrium. And the trees really need to get pruned soon. We got the avocado. Avocados don't go dormant, neither does the lemon, they don't go dormant. The apricot here and peach do go dormant, and they need some sort of dormancy for them to set flowers. And dormancy with indoor hydroponics can be tough because it relates back to photoperiodism, which you can dive into more research in if you look it up. But photoperiodism is basically the relationship between like changes in the environment and how an organism reacts to it. So like if I want a plant to flower indoors, I might have to change the light schedule or the temperature to simulate like an outdoor environment to like enact that photoperiodism to change the plant and what's going on with it. So there's short day, long day, and day neutral plants, if you haven't heard me talk about it a bunch, and that's relation to how they will flower in nature. So day neutral plants don't care what light schedule they get. Long day plants want more than 12 hours. Short day plants want less than 12 hours. And usually short day plants want colder climates, but you can find some long day plants that want colder climates. Like the cauliflower, for example, was a long day plant that wanted like a colder climate. It's just about mimicking what occurs in nature to try and get a result of what happens, you know, indoors to outdoors. And it can be tough sometimes. But like I said, the avocado and the lemon don't need dormancy. I'm going to be pruning these probably in a separate video very soon because I have not pruned this avocado. It's about 3 years old. They barely drink. That's what's great about the trees is I've probably watered this avocado like 20 times in the last 3 years. Same with the lemon. They're just starting to drink more now because they're getting massive. The peach tree didn't even drink for 6 months when it went dormant, so I didn't even have to water it then. So some people think that like it's unrealistic to grow trees inside. Maybe it is, but you can just keep cutting them and bonsaiing them and chop them down and get them smaller, which is what I'm working on doing. And then they don't drink that much water. The avocado doesn't even have a light above it, neither does the lemon, just kind of from the natural light that comes in. So it's not even like I have any LEDs above them. And then a lot of people think it's expensive to grow indoors hydroponically, and that's just if you want to buy a lot of the equipment like I have with certain setups. This is more of a cheaper setup I got here with a outdoor garden or whatever this tent is you like put outside when you have picnics. Because it just seems unrealistic to have trees inside, and then it's like a lot of work. And it can be, but not with certain plants. Like, it's just hard to describe because some plants don't really drink a lot of water and some do. So I haven't really experienced these drinking a lot of water or being like high maintenance. And yeah, it's just tough to describe. So we have this pepper back here that's day neutral. After it produces peppers, I like to take some of the leaves off on this pepper plant in particular. It's a bell pepper that's red. It's done like 5 or 6 runs of peppers. I haven't let it go dormant. I've just been letting it just keep producing peppers. If you haven't seen some of my harvest videos in the past, that's where a lot of my clips come from, is that one. And then we just harvested this one over in a short. And if you didn't see that one, we got tons of peppers off of it. It's going for another run right now. I probably should prune it up a little bit and throw another light above it, but I've just been working on so much stuff. That's why I'm trying to rush through this, kind of just to show you guys everything I got going on, because it's a lot and I want to break it up into separate stuff just to show you guys everything better. So I've been saving these runners on these strawberries to show you guys how to clone them better, aside from the short I put out. And then we're probably going to pick one of these pineapples to put outside, and I'm going to make a separate video on cloning pineapple. We haven't gotten any lemons or avocados off the tree. I've gotten questions about that. They're only a couple years old. They're not super thick or old, and they don't go dormant. And if I don't change the environment too much, they're probably not going to flower unless I prune them up a bunch and let them get older. So you just got to be patient with it. I could always put them outside if I buy a house or have a house or something. I clone them all the time. That's how I got the lemon outside. And they grow faster indoors than outdoors. I had a cactus outside of my old house that I took from outside and put inside, and it just grew feet upon feet really fast. And the ones outside did not really grow as fast, but they survived out there and they did great. It's just the relation out there is really tough with how hot it is and how dry it is, and you just can notice the difference. So over here we have more strawberries that I don't really know what to do with still, because like I said, I had over 200 of them. I just tried to give homes to everybody and do a bunch of experiments to tell you guys the best ways to grow strawberries indoors, since it can be a little complicated to grow indoors sometimes. I think these are flowering just because, well, I don't necessarily know the cultivar I have. There's June bearing and everbearing, and I put out a separate video on how to grow strawberries hydroponically despite what cultivar you have. And that they like to flower below 86 for everbearing and 79 for June bearing. And that I do a lot of the research from Japan, because Japan grows some of the best hydroponic strawberries in the world. And they've been doing it for like 20 years. And so I have them under a lower, these cultivar will flower under 12 hours, but you can get long day, day neutral, or short day strawberries. And these ones, I believe, are June bearing, so I believe they flower below 79 because they're very runner heavy, which is a trait with June bearing. So it's been tough to identify them, which hasn't really been much of an issue because I still get good success with them. I wasn't really expecting the downstairs ones to flower because I don't really temperature control this space as much as I control the space upstairs. But I want to show this to you guys just to give you a good perspective on that you don't always need all the gear and equipment that I use and have. I just try and use the gear and equipment that I have to get things perfect, to show you guys that like just different ways of doing things, and that it can be more systematic if I have like a real structure to how, like with the strawberry tent, for example, I'm showing exactly what I'm doing when I'm watering it in my other videos, when I'm watering it, pruning it, and everything that's going into it from start to finish, so that it's completely replicatable by someone else, which can be kind of tougher with like different setups like this. Like, it's not going to be as replicatable for someone else if, you know, this tent isn't really super necessary. That's why I don't have one here. The tents aren't always super necessary. I like them for moisture purposes. Cauliflower, we harvested in a recent video, if you guys didn't see that. I'm also going to throw some clips in here of us harvesting it. You only really get one head off the plant. They can grow back afterwards and create seeds. You can eat the leaves. We might try and eat the leaves just for a video, just for fun. But I'm gonna get rid of that plant. It's taking up a lot of space. It took a lot of time to grow. It wasn't the most practical thing to grow indoors hydroponically. It drank a lot of water. The strawberries barely drink. So when it comes to growing certain things indoors, there's some things I recommend far more than others. And I'll be putting videos out about that as well, but I don't really recommend stuff like cauliflower. I recommend lettuces, definitely, beans, and peas. Peas are really good, just leafy stuff, arugula, cabbage, stuff that grows in like 40 days, 60 days. I don't do reservoir changes, which is different from the industry, but I haven't reservoir changed in any of these buckets in a year, 2 years. I believe that the plant's roots get better at living in the environment that they're in, and that outside the environment never changes. And it's a controversial thing, and you can change your reservoirs. Even the nutrients like Growwood tells me to change the reservoirs every 3-4 weeks. I believe it shocks and kills the plants. When I've experimented with it in the past, I believe it just shocks and kills the roots. And the industry does not do that. They change reservoirs, and a lot of hydroponic growers will probably tell you to change reservoirs. As long as the temperature is controlled and you use something like HydroGuard or hydrogen peroxide, not both at the same time, it should keep the environment free of certain bacteria, because there's also like another thing with hydroponics where it's organic and inorganic. So I have to make videos talking about this as well too. That's why I'm trying to rush through everything, just to get all my thoughts out there, because you guys have a lot of questions, and if I can just put them out there in something that maybe people who want to listen to it more will just hear, and maybe not be as great for the algorithm, but just for people who want to learn more and are just more interested in what I have to say rather than searching something up specifically. But there's organic and inorganic liquid fertilizer basically for hydroponics, and the way you go about it is kind of tougher because it's hard to explain. Because when we think of organic, we think of pesticide-free, insecticide-free, herbicide, whatever, and organic soil, meaning it came from something that was alive. Inorganic means it came from something that wasn't alive, like a mineral or a salt, and synthetic means it was like man-made or a combination or something that was manufactured. So a lot of people think it's like synthetic fertilizers, and that's a perspective you could have on it. It's a blend of usually 90% to 10% or 80% to 20% organic to inorganic. So it's usually more organic than inorganic, because with hydroponics, with inorganic, we're trying to have an environment where there's nothing really alive in the environment. So it's like a sterile environment. That's why we have black food grade buckets that do not allow light to go in them, because you don't want like algae or microbacteria or organisms really living inside of there. And the plants can't really tell the difference. They just uptake the nutrients they come in contact with. Like, they need nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. And you can get all that in different methods. And the reason like inorganic or synthetic fertilizers are not the greatest for the environment is because if you dump them into the environment, they have like an imbalance to what's usually outside. So you don't really want to put them outside too much. So that's why I said I'm going to be switching to like compost teas and trying to shift to that more, just to lead as an example for you guys, to show that it's possible, and just like to show you guys systematic ways to do it easily without adding much burden to your life, because I don't really spend that much time on the plants. There's a misconception that it takes up a whole lot of time. I probably spend an hour or two on the plants every couple days, and I have a lot of plants, as you'll see. So they don't always take that much time. They don't drink a lot, especially in the 5-gallon buckets with certain types of plants. And so with organic fertilizers, you can like soak some worm castings with some Epsom salt and some other stuff. And there's some videos you might want to check out on YouTube of that, of some other hydroponic growers, since I don't have any out as the time of recording this. But I will be experimenting with them soon, because I want to lead by example and do something that's good for the environment, and just show something that's more sustainable for the environment overall. And it might be a little more work involved, I'm not really sure. But I just want to show you guys. That's why I'm experimenting more with Kratky, just to do a bunch of different things and give a bunch of different perspectives. Obviously, I wouldn't eat food that would give me cancer or kill me or something. You don't want to come in contact with the nutrients. That's why you wear gloves and a mask when you mix them up and put them in the plant water. But it's like not going to be harmful when it gets absorbed into the plant and when you eat the plant. They're just uptaking the nutrients they come in contact with. There's a whole lot of things in soil you don't want to be sticking your hand in and like licking and eating. So same thing with hydroponic nutrients. It's not necessarily that they're like terrible. for the plant to consume and eat and for you to eat off of, but you definitely don't want to be sticking your hand in them and coming in contact with them a whole lot. Organic or not, inorganic, doesn't matter. You just really probably shouldn't come in contact with compost like that. So just to give you guys a bunch of different perspectives, because there's a lot of misconceptions around hydroponics, and I put out separate videos on the electricity that goes into it, because a lot of people, in one of my best videos right now is the electrical video about how much electricity it costs going into it. Because one of these LEDs for 8 hours at 14 cents a kilowatt, it varies where you live. So, you know, a lot of people in Germany are saying it's like 30, 40 cents a kilowatt and that it's like crazy to grow indoors there. So, sorry Germany and Europe. But it's about 14 cents to 17 cents a kilowatt here. It changes. And a lot of my lights I only have on for about 8 hours a day. They're 2.5 foot by 2.5 foot coverage lights, a lot of mine, and they're around 120, 100 bucks a piece. It depends. And I get them from Mars Hydro. I will have links to all my gear listed in the link in the description down below. I affiliate for Mars Hydro and have discount codes for grow lights, grow tents, and grow tent kits. That was a fungus gnat. And I have a separate video coming out about how I deal with bugs, but just to talk about it real quick, I use vacuum, catchy, and I hunt a lot of them by hand because I don't use any pesticides or insecticides. And I use clay instead of perlite. Clay is a little more eco-friendly than perlite, but I'm experimenting with perlite. It's cheaper. Like a 20-pound bag of clay, depending on what brand you get, can be like 60, 80, or 100 bucks and fill about 7 net pots, where perlite can be $16 for a 2 1/4 quart bag, which I'll show a video of, and that can fill way more than, like, easily double that. So if you want like a cheaper setup, you can just get some net pots and some food grade buckets and Kratky with some perlite, which is what I'm experimenting with. But when you get an 8 bucket setup, they're pretty good bang for your buck because it just starts to get cheaper per bucket. It's almost like $10, $15 per bucket, because you'll get an 8 bucket system for like 150 bucks, 120, 130. And if you wanted to make your own setup with buckets, it could end up costing more, buying 8 buckets and tubes and pumps and everything. So like, I thought about making my own buckets when I first started, but it just came down to buying a food grade setup that was already built for me. It was cheaper and better and quicker. So I get a lot of questions about how to set things up. I put out a vlog of how to properly set up a grow space. I'm going to be setting up or making like an educational video strictly on it. I like to do vlog style stuff and educational style stuff and shorts, just to put my stuff everywhere in a bunch of different platforms. But we hang the pumps above the water in case of a power outage so that water doesn't feed back into the pump and destroy it somehow. They get really annoying and I don't really like hearing them. So that's why I'm experimenting more with Kratky and why I put them in bedrooms. And that's why sometimes I need extra air conditioners to help keep the space cool, because the LEDs do heat up the space. And that's what I was talking about with electricity, is I put out a separate video on it, because if I rush through anything too much, there's always pretty much separate videos diving into more detail of what I'm talking about if I skim past something too much. But the LEDs, 8 hours a day at 14 cents a kilowatt, is about $5 a month each light. So it's about 15 bucks a month for these lights here, 8 hours. And as you see more lights, they're about 2 foot coverage, 100 to 150 watts per light, depending on the size, because I have 2 that are a little different. I recommend Mars Hydro because I have 2 different companies that I got from, and the other company's capacitors continue to blow, so I've had to change capacitors in every single one of them. I have about 10 of them, and in the last 3 years I've had to change the capacitors in all of them. I have a separate short of me doing that and a video of me doing that. I'll cover it in long form when I get a new soldering iron or kit, because mine fell over and broke. But Mars Hydro I've never had a failure with, and I've never had to replace a capacitor with. And I got both at the same time 3 years ago, because I've heard about lights going out and I've heard about the longevity in them, and I didn't know which company or brand to go with, and I wanted to see for myself. And personally, Mars Hydro has never failed. The other company, I don't even know if they're in business anymore, and I'm never going to buy one of their lights again. And yeah, so that's why I recommend Mars Hydro, because I've never had a failure with them, and I've experimented with them a bunch, and I'm tired of fixing LED lights of other companies that aren't as good. So I want to show you guys the plants upstairs and what we got going on upstairs. I just don't want to leave anything out downstairs. So, like I said, we're going to get rid of cauliflower, might eat it. The berries are flowering down here, and that might be because we have central air in the house, and the house is always at 80 degrees. So if these are ever bearing, they'll flower below 86. And if they're June bearing, they'll flower below 79. And they can drop low enough at night when the temperatures drop low enough. It also could be because I have very low light on them, pretty high away, not the greatest light on them, and 8 hours, and that could be a photoperiodic response, photoperiodism, that is making them flower. So I've gotten not great results with flowering in this tent though, and not super controlled. That's why I do a controlled tent more upstairs, and that's why I'm surprised that these are flowering, because I had an entire tent full of strawberries, and I can show clips of it, and none of them flowered, and they were really overcrowded, and it could be because they were overcrowded, but I was doing 8 hours and a lot of the same stuff I was trying to do to get them to flower, and it wasn't going the greatest, and I cut it down to 1 per bucket, and I'm just still surprised that I'm getting flowers down here, and I want to show you guys that. This is the one I took the 200 strawberries off of and was in the hydroponic root pull video of the roots kind of dying off and not doing the greatest. You guys were saying I could clip off the roots and have it regrow new ones. That's true, and I could, and plants can live a long time if you kind of chop and prop like that, but they're super easy to clone and replace, and I just don't really feel like getting all messy and dirty in there, chopping roots up. But some people in my comments say other hydroponic growers do it, and it's definitely an option. And to get those dead roots out of there, that's why HydroGuard can turn. That's why I like HydroGuard, because it can turn those dead roots into organic matter that your plants can consume. So it cures, prevents, and solves root rot by making it stuff into plants. It decomposes it into stuff your plants can consume. So there's a chance that this plant could come back with nice pearly white roots and consume all of those dead roots, which I've had happen with like my 3-year-old basil, which was also in a hydroponic root pull part 1 video, which is doing really well on a lot of platforms. So if you guys are here because of that, hello. And we're gonna go show upstairs and what we got going on up there, which are more controlled and where it starts to get a little more passionate and fanatical and a little more like my passion and hobby. In a separate video I just put out, I talked about how I start just about any seed with rock wool, whether it's a stone seed, berries that need cold stratification, lettuces, peas, beans, and I'm going to be experimenting with some alternatives to rock wool because it's not the most eco-friendly thing in the world, because it's mineral wool spun from molten rock and slag. And you kind of need some protection when using it because it feels like a little fiberglass if you get it on you, like the insulation in your house. And I want to experiment with coconut coir and peat more, and I just worry about bugs because like you saw, I have some bug problems, not many, and they're easy to solve. Fungus gnats are the least of my concern when it comes to bug problems. But I just want to experiment with more eco-friendly options. You could grow in some soil and then wash the roots away and put the plant in the hydroponic grow media, whether you're using perlite or leca. And yeah, let me just go show you upstairs. Over here in this closet, I start some off to the side to help with algae. Algae dies in the dark, and you can squirt it with some hydrogen peroxide or HydroGuard, depending on what you use. One or the other, not both. And that can help a little bit. And the peas, this one did not make it in the rock wool, and that's because I have tough times with peas and rock wool. I like to try and maybe get a longer taproot. We're going to experiment more with that and throwing them in. I've had peas work in the past with rock wool. I don't know if I have any video examples to show, but it works really well with other plants. It's working with this apricot seed, it looks like right now. And then the clones of the grapevine we took in a separate video. And all the seeds we have to transfer soon. So we have tomato black cherry, green romaine, rosemary, butter crunch lettuce, and then we're starting Roma tomato, Florade tomato, I don't know if I can pronounce that correctly, and I'm trying to start some purple peppers. And yeah, that's what we got going on with seeds. I do a 12-12 light schedule, 90% humidity under the humidity dome. It's okay because I have these in 10 to 20% humidity out here. And yeah. Over here is the 8x8 tent we set up in a separate video. I'm trying to fill this up with as many plants as I possibly can. This does have an air conditioner in it along with the central air just to try and keep this more to temperature since the room can get kind of hot. That's also because I live in the desert. It's not a complete requirement for everybody, so I don't want you to think it is. Let me just go through the plants we got in here. Got sweet basil, Brussels sprouts. I might cull this down to 1 or 2 and string it up because I believe they grow in a column. I haven't grown Brussels before. I haven't grown a lot of these before. Yeah, if you're interested in some of the plants I've grown a lot of stuff, but that's all in separate videos because this video is getting way too long. But we got red acre cabbage, gourmet lettuce, raspberries, these 3, which we're trying to help them with the algae a little bit. White strawberries coming out good. There's a couple in there. Blackberry, and then arugula. This grows in about 40 to 60 days, grows really fast. The gourmet in about 60 days. So these are growing really quick. We got another gourmet here and another gourmet. This one is the one I Kratky'd that has reverse osmosis, filtered water, the cheaper plant nutrients, and HydroGuard. So we'll see how that one comes out off to the side. Like I said, these are 2.5-foot grow lights, but 2-foot flower. So the reason we're in a cold tent is because we want the short day plants to flower like the berries and the long day plants to not flower like the lettuce. Because lettuce is long day and won't flower under short day. And a lot of these berries, I believe, are short cold day plants and will flower in the shorter, colder environment. But we have a lux detector you can use to tell how much light is coming out of your plants. The sunlight outside is around 60 to 100,000 lux. The grow lights at the tip can be 80,000 lux, but down by the plants around 20 to 30,000 lux, which is good for like vegetative plants and fruits. So off to the side you can still grow a lot of plants if the lux is high enough and there's plenty of light that's being essentially wasted over here. But I use, because when I water or harvest or work on the plants or with bugs or whatever, I like to have this area to work in. But essentially if there wasn't like a wall here and I could unzip, I could throw another row in here. It would isolate the center, maybe make it a little tougher. Some plants don't need watering a whole lot, like the gourmet and certain like the strawberries and stuff don't really need watering a whole lot. So you could set them there, forget them for a while, and then come back 30 days later, 40 days later and pull them all out. I just like to have the rows thin so that I can manage them around. But in the past, I used to just throw as much as you possibly could under a grow light. So I would have just loaded this up with more buckets and even on the side there with more buckets, because if there's enough lux and light touches it, something will grow. So some house plants need 5,000 lux, like aloe vera in the other room. I've only watered it once in the last like year, and it needs like very low lux to grow. It can be a house plant, but it also can take high lux. So just having it off to the side in your garden is great. So just, you might want to research, what lux your plant may require, because you can have some heavier lux plants in the center and some lower lux plants out to the side, and do some great companion planting there as well. So let's go check out the strawberry tent we got in the other room. We might harvest a little bit of arugula today, and if I were to harvest gourmet, I grew one for over a year and it got to about 2 feet tall as a column and shot out runners. It was crazy. I didn't have as good of a phone back then, and that's why I'm rushing a lot right now, is because we recently got this phone and I've just been trying to capture what I've done in the last 3 years and get it out to you guys, because I haven't even had the ability to really document it too much since I've moved out. And my phone was full on storage and cracked and only had like 32 gigabytes. And you know that section in your phone that's like, what do they call it?
Storage?
Yeah, storage, but there's always that section that's full that you can't like delete, that's like extra storage or whatever. Other, yeah, like that other section, yeah, it gets like too big. So if I were to do gourmet again, which I am, I'm going to chop it at the top, because I last time just kept pulling from the bottom.
and letting it grow into a column and just kind of pulling it as it grew into a column, and it kept regrowing on the column. And it was like, I have a clip I can show of it that's like 1 second, and I'll freeze frame it so you can get a good perspective of it. But it kept regrowing on the column like a cake. It looked like a cake. And I should have just chopped it right at the center and let it regrow there. It got really tall and I lost it to bugs that I was dealing with at the time. So I'm retrying it now in a more controlled environment with no bugs in here. And I have a Kratky in here. Sometimes we do get like fungus gnats, but the bugs I'm talking about are these little aphids that are kind of like microscopic. I can show them on a Kratky that I have lying around that you can really see millions and billions of them. And like, I might have a clip I can throw in of them jumping around in the sink. But yeah, you can keep them going year round indoors, which is why I like it, because this is going to be here for a year or two and I'm just going to keep chopping lettuce off of it. But you could grow this outside in your climate if you can, and just chop it at the base when it's done and harvest a whole head of lettuce like you see people do and leave it or get rid of it. But you can have them regrow. So you could chop at the base and have it regrow. You don't have to do a one-time harvest on things. They can grow for a very long time. And like I said, I had one for over a year. We harvested so much off of. I just don't have a whole lot of clips and videos of it, which sucks. So I'm trying to get like better clips and videos of it because it's a really good looking lettuce. Alright, so we're in the strawberry tent. Again, this tent has been having a little trouble getting down to temperature. We have the central air helping out. I took the carbon filter out because this one's massive and it is not really super necessary with certain plants. Some plants don't smell or emit that much bad air. You want a certain CFM for the inside of the tent. That's the amount of air that will be circulated through the tent within 1 minute, and that's based on the square footage, and there's ways to calculate that, and I've covered that in other videos. But I'm really talking a lot in this one at this point, so I'm just, again, continuing to try and rush through this because it's getting really long. But it's at 64 degrees in here, and we have some berries going. Like I said, these are the same age as the ones outdoors, and the air conditioner adds about 250 CFM, and I'm not really too worried about these strawberries and the CFM and the airflow in the tent. The central air in the house probably adds some CFM of airflow just throughout here. Regardless, this was overkill and I wouldn't do this. I'd probably either have a 4 or a 6 inch in there with an inline, with a carbon filter. Again, you don't have to have a carbon filter. It's just some plants stink more than others. Like, or when you prune them a bunch. Tomato makes me really itchy and makes the house smell a lot and will make me sneeze all day, so it's nice to have the carbon filter to filter that out with tomato. Broccoli stinks. You don't really want to hang around a broccoli plant a whole lot. They smell kind of bad. Sweet basil smells really good, so it's not necessarily that I want that getting covered up or nothing. But when I grew quinoa and when I grew wheat, those are plants that like the root system has to die off and the plant has to die for you to harvest it. And dying and dead roots stink and smell terrible, and you know you have a dead plant when it smells like death in the room. And you definitely want a carbon filter to filter that out if and when that does happen. And some plants you have to sit through it. Like quinoa, I had to sit through it until the whole plant ripened, and wheat, I had to sit through it until all the wheat ripened. So for weeks it just stunk, and like you had to use a carbon filter to keep the air fresh because, you know, that's just inevitable with some plants. But strawberries, not really. So I'm not super worried about not having a carbon filter in here with them. Even in the other tent, the carbon filter could be a little overkill with the lettuces and stuff. I go overkill with a lot of my setups just because I like everything to come out super perfect. But that's why I'm trying to show you guys that there's a bunch of different ways to set things up, like the tent I have downstairs and stuff. So there's a little strawberry for us to harvest in there. So the ones outside, we're probably only gonna get like 1 crop per year off of because of the climate being so rough. But indoors, hydroponically, I can keep them going year round and just keep getting strawberries off of them year round. Now strawberries live about 3, 4, 5 years outdoors, and they'll keep coming back every year. And they can live 3, 4, 5 years indoors as well, but you're gonna have to give them a period of dormancy by either chopping them at the root or some sort of photoperiodism. I haven't experimented that with a whole lot because I would just specifically with strawberry replace them with how easy they are to clone. Sorry, I lost my train of thought for a second. So as I was saying, indoors we can keep them flowering year round continuously. It'll shorten their lifespan. It can make them prone to disease and kill them off because with that no period of dormancy, it's not very natural. So we're experimenting with that. We'll see how it goes. I've had a strawberry that I didn't give any dormancy, like the one I pulled 200 clones off of. I've never given any dormancy, and it's doing just fine after about 2 years. And that's why I said in the hydroponic root pulls part 1 that I believe it's dying off, because it's been about 3 years almost on that plant, and they only live about 4 or 5, even 6, depending on the cultivar, outdoors. And it's just surprising to see it still doing well down there. And yeah, so that's just something to think about with growing indoors, is that you can get, you know, some more crop off of it and keep it going, and with different plants and experimenting a bunch. And that's what we like to say, is that there's no failures with gardening, just experiments. So we got some berries on this one that are looking good. I don't know why this one's looking a little odd. We'll see how they come out. These are smaller looking plants. The ones downstairs are more full grown. Like I said, these are the same age as the ones outside, so that gives a little bit of perspective of growth. These are not with a compost tea. These are with the Veg Bloom bundle. And we have some strawberries here. We're going to pick this one and eat this one today. When they start flowering, you want to check them every day, because the berries start coming off pretty quick. And clipping runners so it doesn't clone themselves. Right now I'm letting them have several crowns, which you can see on this one really well, the crowns. The strawberries are really good at cloning themselves, and there's usually a main crown, but they can go up to 4 or 5, or even 6, or even 8, depending on the cultivar. You don't really want more than 4. You can pull them out. I pulled this one out. That's another way you can clone them. I'm going to put out a separate video on the long form, like I was saying, on cloning them, but I have a short on it if you're more interested. And yeah, that's just kind of what's going on with the strawberry tent in here. And yeah, next room. Where we took celery from. Aloe, like I said, massive. Only really watered it once or twice in the last year. And there's 3 aloe plants in here. And they just somehow spawned another one, like a 4th is coming out just out of nowhere right there. So this is an amazing plant. And like, I would probably chop it right here and harvest this top piece right here and leave the lower leaves. Rather than harvest the lower leaves, like I was saying about that lettuce, you'll end up building a column. If I take these lower leaves and like leave it there, it'll be a column and heavy at the top, and it could even snap because of its top heaviness. And if I continue in that manner, the column will just get larger, and it will just kind of like look something like this, where it's just a long column and a heavy head at the top. So if I just chop at the top, like right there, leave those lower leaves, it'll just come out the center again, and I can just keep chopping the top and leaving these lower leaves. So that's the idea I got going with that and with the lettuces. Rather than taking those lower leaves and building a column, chopping it at the top and letting those lower leaves regrow something out the center. So we got broccoli here, way too many in a bucket I was experimenting with. This is Calabrese broccoli. It just keeps producing heads of broccoli, so I haven't gotten rid of it because this specific cultivar does that. And yeah, it is probably one I would not do again like this. I would probably string up, do 1 in a bucket, and chop it a little better. But I'm just letting it go crazy here because I got a lot going on. So we're cracking the arugula here. This one is doing really well. This is a food grade bucket. This was reverse osmosis filtered water with hydrogen peroxide as a substitute to HydroGuard. So let's check out the roots. We're relying on the roots to go lower in the bucket to come in contact with water. This was with the cheaper plant nutrients as well. No roots are coming out the bottom yet, but perlite is actually really good at staying moist. So this is really wet, and despite the water level being right there, you know? So we're gonna see how this goes just in the windowsill like this with no light above it, just to give you guys more options of what you can do with hydroponics. Because I like to say you don't have to be a pro to grow. Just throw a seed in the ground and just see what happens. And over here I have a bunch of carnivorous plants because I was really obsessed with them in the past. They've been struggling a little bit because I haven't been taking the greatest care of them. They're super easy to clone, and I wanted them to help me solve my bug problem, but it kind of just created more of a bug problem because the bugs like the soil. And they take a long time to grow, and they're kind of small, so it's not like I could put them in my hydroponic buckets, which is something else I wanted to do. Because I have a lot of like ideas and delusions, and some of them aren't always super realistic, like putting carnivorous plants in the like lettuces and fruit buckets just to help kill bugs. Not that you couldn't do a carnivorous plant. I mean, technically I probably could throw a bunch of carnivorous plants in this perlite or in the clay and grow them like that and just make sure the water doesn't go too low and they stay hydrated. And I want to do that, and I wanted to have an entire carnivorous bucket, and I'll try that at some point. But they're kind of small, they take a long time to grow, it depends on what you're using. Also, they like to get their food, their nutrients from eating bugs, not from the water. So I don't know, it'd be cool to grow them hydroponically. I'll experiment more with it in the future. But yeah, there's a lot of really interesting carnivorous plants, and I have some older videos I can show of them when they were like really pretty and not all dormant. Since a lot of them go dormant, and a lot of them I accidentally probably killed, and they're kind of expensive, some of them. So yeah, I don't feel the greatest about that. All right, so as I was saying, we're gonna replace the rosemary that died outside for whatever reason it may have died with a pineapple or a strawberry. I'll just take a quick clip of that. It's super quick. You just scoop the perlite over, throw the plant in, throw it in the nutrient water, set it and forget it. We're trying more set it and forget it methods. But we're gonna try it with tap water, hydrogen peroxide in the non-food grade bucket, and with the cheaper plant nutrients. But when I say reverse osmosis filtered water, that's the under-the-counter system that we have. The pH comes out about 6. These are the filters that need replacing every so often. This is about $300, $400, and the replacement filters are like, Betty?
They're about $100, but they last for
all three
years, depending. Altogether, they're $100.
Yeah, so for all three, they're about $100, and this can last up to 2 years, depending on, how much you use it, and thousands of gallons. This one goes up to 600 gallons for a year, and this one's 600 gallons for 6 months. Why does that one say 6 months? 600 gallons for 6 months. This one says 600 gallons for a year. Oh well. And this one says 2 years. And it doesn't say gallons on it, but it's usually double the gallons of that. But yeah, so I'm experimenting with tap water just to give more options for you guys. So I've talked your ear off enough in this video. I'm going to show a bunch of clips of anything I talked about. And I hope you guys check out a lot of the videos I referenced out of the like 100 I've referenced so far that I did, will, and might create. And I just want to harvest a couple of apricots to eat right now in this strawberry with Fetty. Because when we do harvest them all, I chop them up and throw them in the freezer and freeze them. And I like them fresh off the tree, washed off, and eaten. It's you can't beat that. So this is the time of year to do it. You can eat them when they're a little green like this. So we just find some ones that are a little more orange, and we'll pick those and have some of them. Because in a week or two, they are probably going to be all harvested and gone and chopped up and put in a freezer. So that's how we'll end the video, and I really thank you guys. If you've made it this far and you've heard me babble on this long, you've probably heard me say a bunch of this stuff before, but we really appreciate you. Thank you on all different social platforms, and yeah, let me just pick a couple of these and wash them off and then get a clip of me and Fetty trying them, because I like to try and document as much as I possibly can. I guess we're just adding clips now. We're gonna take this one. Alright, so I just washed them off. I don't want to put them down. Apricot's got the seed inside. They're stone seeds. And you just don't want to obviously bite that. Here, Fetty.
Yay.
And then let's crack open this one. They're a little tougher to crack open when they're green. I just want to capture these lifelong memories.
I like the greener ones a little bit, so I'll take that one.
You like the greener one?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Here, let's get you in the clip.
Okay.
Here we are.
Hi, guys.
We got the strawberry.
Apricot.
Apricots. I'm eating half at a time.
Same.
I'm definitely eating more of these off camera.
Wow, this is really good.
Dude, it takes me back to last summer. So good.
So, fun fact, last year today, June 3rd, we harvested that tree. So last year was ready today, but this year it's doing a lot better.
It's gonna take a little longer.
It's gonna take a little longer.
Sometimes apricot trees can do 2 per year, but in this climate, I don't know about
I
that.
think just one.
All right.
I get first bite?
Mm-hmm. This berry came out a little funky looking, which is all right.
Wow, that's the sweetest one I've had from your garden so far.
Oh, you're capping.
No, I'm not, I swear.
I don't know, the other ones were really, really sweet. This one tastes more hydrated. This one tastes very like...
Refreshing?
It's sweet in like a different way. It's sweet in like a hydration way,
Yeah.
you know? Very like moist. You like the white part at the end. All right. Thank you guys for watching. We really appreciate it. We have our hydroponic plants playlist that you can subscribe if you want more. And then what YouTube thinks is best for you if this video is on YouTube. Thank you for watching.
Thank you. Have a great
Goodbye.
day.